Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting of December the 18th, our one and only this month. Madam, I'll call it to order. Madam Clerk, will you do the roll call?
Mr. Braun?
Present.
Mr. Shyland?
Present.
Mr. Moore?
Present.
Ms. Reclue?
Present.
Mr. Shiverdecker?
Here.
Mr. Simmons?
Present.
Mr. Stone?
Present.
And Mr. Vaughn?
Here.
8 council members present.
Very good. Let's rise for the invocation. Pastor Bruce Williamson is with us again this evening. Thank you, Pastor, and Merry Christmas. And if you lead us right on into the pledge after you're finished, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this blessed day and year in our community. We're thankful, Lord, for those that serve this community, for the progress that we've made throughout the year, for taking really good care of our people. That in mind, as we finish one year anticipating another, we also realize that for some this is a sad time, where loved ones have been lost in tragedies throughout America. Even today, 2 Chicago police officers were killed in the line of duty. It seems to be unceasing, but we know and believe and trust you to take care of our communities all across America and comfort our people. I pray for this session tonight and for those that will share from the community and from the city governance. I pray for our mayor and council persons, administrators, department heads, and the boots on the ground daily that lead our city forward. I do pray for any discussions, any decisions that follow them, that they'll be pleasing and honorable to you. We lift up, Lord, all of those around us without a home or a job or proper shelter and care. The abundance we can find within our hearts to help those who are in wantonness. Guide this place tonight and all that's held in it. We pray this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Please come back. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Very good. Thank you. Get myself back together here. At the beginning of each council meeting, we set a time aside for those citizens of the city who have a concern that they'd like to bring to council, and if they're not already on the agenda, to do so. At this time, all we ask for is that you give us your name and your address and limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes, of which the clerk will time you. So at this time, I would entertain or invite anyone who has a concern within the city that they'd like to share with council to please come forward. Is anyone present who'd like to share? Good evening.
Greetings. My name is Beverly Gray, 112 West Oswald, Fulton. Number 1, big thank you to Park and Recreation. What they have done at Veterans Park with the Christmas lights is absolutely awesome. Now, this is the serious part. This new traffic thing you have over on Wood Street there is totally worthless. Yeah, it tells me I'm speeding. Yeah, it tells me to slow down. Nobody pays any attention to it. What would we have to do
comment. The Bartley students were the one that petitioned to get that particular sign installed at Bartley School. So it was an initiative by the students at Bartley School to do that.
And I can get a hold of the principal and find out?
Yep.
Thank you.
Might I remind the council to please hold comments until the meeting. This is for testimony only. Is anyone else present who'd like to testify? Sure, ma'am. Or share with us.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Misty Maupin. My address is 6270 Cedar Oak Drive in Fulton, Missouri. I am the Cub Master for PAC 52, and it has come to our attention of the Park and Recs. You all are going to vote today on the use of the Scout Cabin, and I just wanted to share some of our experiences in that cabin. Our PAC has been a commission PAC for 68 years. Our numbers have waned and grown over the years, and recently in the past 6 years we have grown substantially. I have 25 boys and girls that use that Scout Cabin, and a lot of that is thanks to the city for our use of that area, of that cabin. Without having a place to meet like that, my PAC would not thrive as it has. Our PAC also does quite a few community services for the community. We do the luminaries. I know the troops do the flags. We also help Toys for Tots and do other community service for conservation areas. As part of the use of the cabin, it would continue to allow us to grow our program. Scouting is a worthwhile program to have in the community. We have 5 different troops and packs in the community that at some point use that cabin. I have seen firsthand the benefits to these, especially to my own children, that scouting has on their lives, and scouts eventually do become leaders in their community, and so it is a worthwhile program. And I just ask, as you vote today on that, that you will consider that. In parting, I would like to just share with you our Scout oath. Will my Scouts stand? On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Okay. Is anyone else present who would like to share with the council? Doesn't have to be a concern, can be a good thing. Okay, seeing no one coming forward, we'll move on with our agenda. I'm going to call on Daryl Dunlap. I believe he has something he'd like to share with us this evening. He has one of his cohorts with him.
Tonight we got Micah Harris with us. He's the assistant supervisor of the electric department, and actually he's a Callawhegian, so he was born and raised here. And we had an incident the other day with Dollar General, and Mike has seen that job from the first of it, found it actually, to the end of it. And I'd like to say thank you to Dollar General also. They worked with us really hard and gave us an opportunity to fix the problem that day about 2 o'clock in that morning. But let Micah tell you what happened.
Yeah.
Kind of sharp edge.
As Daryl said, I'm Micah. I'm the assistant supervisor in the electric department here. Thursday morning, about 6:30, I believe, is when it first started happening. The Dollar General breaker out of the power plant, it was opening for a split second and closing. Not enough to lock the breaker out, but enough to blink the lights. when we got there at 7:30, that was their first call to us, so we immediately started running the line. And for those of you that don't know, Dollar General has a breaker in our substation at the power plant that runs straight to Dollar General. There's nothing else on it. No homes, no other business. It's a sole purpose is to feed the distribution plant. And we ran that line, the length of it, and couldn't find anything. So on the west side of the property at Dollar General, there's a metering cabinet. There's one meter that meters everything that goes into Dollar General. And inside that cabinet, we found that bushing. The little piece that's sitting on top there was actually blown off, and the bare metal was inside the cabinet, and that's what was causing the blinks. It was pretty damp that morning, so it would arc against the cabinet. Basically, the breaker would open, the moisture would dissipate when it would arc, so it would close, and it would just go back to normal until the moisture would build back up again. So once we found that, we immediately started looking for parts and trying to decide what the best course of action was, which first thing we did was get a hold of Dollar General to see they were on borrowed time basically, and we made that clear to them that if it did let go completely, they were going to be down for a while, and there wasn't anything we could do about it. So it needed to be fixed sooner than later. They got back to us within a couple hours, and 2 o'clock in the morning was their best window. 2 to 4 was the best time for them to take an outage of any length. So we did have replacement parts on hand, so we got everything loaded, ready by the end of the day. We were on site by 1:45 at exactly 2. Their plant night manager called Chris, our supervisor, and said the building was empty, we could proceed. So it was exactly 2 o'clock. We opened that breaker, took the plant down, and then we that were already at site at the metering cabinet, we opened it, checked everything to make sure it was dead, and fortunately it went as smooth as it could have. It took about a half hour. We had the broken piece out, the new one in, and we're putting it back together. We did have contingency plans. If it didn't go that smooth, we had about a 2-hour window with plans A, B, A, and C if we needed it. But we didn't. It went back. It went really smooth. And then, like I said, it was about a half hour. We had it back together, closed the cabinet. We stepped away. Chris went back to the power plant and turned the lights back on. And I think they were happy with us, and everything went good. So it worked out really well.
Thank you for doing the evolution safely, more than anything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So can we ask questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Old age?
Probably. We're thinking old age. It could have been a lightning strike on the line at some time. Weakened it. About 5 to 6 years ago, we actually had a problem in that cabinet with that piece where it comes through. It's attached to buswork. The piece directly above it had an issue, so it could have arced onto that one back then, and it was just weakened it just enough. But yeah, that cabinet's been there since Dollar General was built, so it has been there a while. So
Any thoughts about the other insulators in there?
While we had it down, we actually crawled in the cabinet, cleaned everything the best we could, visually inspected it for any kind of cracks or anything. But other than that, no, just keep them on hand. If we find it again, then we'll replace another one. But that's about all you can do.
Okay.
I mean, in that cabinet, there's 12 of those. The cabinet's a 4x6 bank, roughly split down the middle. The wire comes in one side, your bus works on the other, and there's 12 of those style insulators in that cabinet. So.
Okay.
The other 11 are in good shape.
The reason I asked these guys to come, or asked them to come and do this little talk tonight, was just so that you guys could see and hear some of the things that our various city crews have to deal with. You know, these guys came in at 2 o'clock in the morning for this project. With the underground project on 4th Street and on Business 54, how many times you come in the middle of the night for that one?
Break time, post office, 3 or 4.
Yeah, they've been in several times, but we try to work around the customer. We try to keep the customer in service as best as possible, and when we're able to schedule something, we schedule around the customer's convenience.
That's good. Yeah. Is that a city-owned transformer, or?
It's not actually a transformer, it's a metering The
Metering.
wire comes in, it's metered, and then it goes out to the plant, but yes, it is the city owns it. Any other questions?
Again, thank you for doing
Well
it
done.
safely.
Yeah.
Good job.
Good job, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank your other guys,
Yep.
too.
Thanks for coming.
We will. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Very good. We'll move on now.
Hey, Micah, tell the rest of your guys thanks too.
With the agenda. The consent agenda is an agenda that we use to consolidate a number of things that are more like housekeeping. And basically those items on the consent agenda tonight are the approval of the city council minutes from November 27th, the approval of the director administration report, and the acknowledgement of the board of the Human Rights Commission board that met on October 29, those minutes. Are there any items on the agenda that any council person would like to take on? Yes.
I don't want to take it off. It's all right, the human rights, but I would like to say a thank you to you and Courtney and Lori and the staff here for a wonderful Jane Biederman Pike Award ceremony this past.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good. Okay. Is there a motion on the consent?
I'll make a motion that we
Second.
accept the consent agenda.
Very good. Thank you. We have a motion and a prior second on the consent agenda. Any further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Okay, very good. Now move on into unfinished business. And this evening we're pleased to have SFS Architects with us. Clay, you want to take over here? Sure. Recreation Community Center.
Thank you. Tonight we have with us Kerry Newman with SFS Architects. He's kind of doing a impromptu PowerPoint since we had some technical difficulties here at the city. He's going to talk about the community center, give you an update on what we've been doing the last 6 months, talk about some design options and the cost for those options. You have some handouts in front of you. Some of those things he'll be talking about tonight, and if you have any questions, he'll be happy to answer when he gets done. Kerry.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm Kerry Newman with SFS Architecture, and really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight just to walk through what we've been working on. We've been working with Clay, as he mentioned, last 6 months, Clay and staff, and we've spent a lot of time really refining the floor plan and making sure that it really is a flexible floor plan and it meets all the program needs that the city anticipates in this rec center. So we've done that. We've worked at refining the plan. We think we've got it set to really what looks best for the city, and we've been looking at the code compliance for the plan and making sure that works, and now working with the city engineering department on the site plan and site work. So I'd like to go ahead and just walk through these plans with you, and then I've got some images too. I think a lot of it's in your packet, and open it up for any questions or discussions that you might have. This is the site plan. There's a significant amount of slope on the site, and so what we've come up with is a 2-level rec center where you actually enter on the upper level. It's sloping towards the top of the page, towards the northeast. And so the parking is in the corner, and you'd access the building on the second floor, on the upper level, and have views out over into the playing fields and athletic areas. We've also looked at how a future aquatic facility might fit on the site, and you can see that's that blue shape to the right of the rec center. We've also planned for an alternate bid item, which is the banquet hall, and that's that blue square on the lower left-hand corner. So we've planned that so that it would have really nice exterior exposure. People using that banquet space could actually walk out onto a patio space and have views out into the beautiful park. Part of that alternate is to create some additional parking as well that would accommodate that banquet space, and that's the kind of the dashed line around the parking lot. That's part of the bid alternate. What the bid alternate would do is when the project bids, we would have a separate price for that banquet space and the parking associated with it, so that you can make a decision at that time whether you want to go ahead and add that as part of the construction. The orange piece is the base bid, and that's the part that we're wanting to make sure that we, actually build that piece. That's really the highest priority, along with the parking associated with that. So that's the site plan, and as I mentioned, we're currently working with engineering to develop all the site work, the grading, utilities, erosion control, and those kinds of things for the site. I should mention we have some parking on the back side as well. That would be mainly staff parking and service parking. We have the trash area on the north side there, and also deliveries could happen on that back side of the building. This is the plan that is really the full project, and this is the piece that we've been working with Clay on to really meet all the needs in the community. So on the left, you'll see the upper level, and the little green box on the lower piece, that's the weather vestibule. So that's where everyone, all the visitors would be entering the building. Once you come into the building, the first thing you see is the service desk, and that's really the face of the community center. And so we want everyone to be able to pass by that service desk and be greeted immediately. Just to the right of the service desk, I'll just walk up here. One thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll try to speak up if I can.
Yeah, there you go.
So, as I mentioned, this is the vestibule. People would come in here. This is the reception desk. This part of the building in kind of the yellow shade is the administrative offices. And we've worked with staff to really refine that and determine how many offices would be needed. There's some open workspace for volunteers or interns that might be working. We have an equipment storage area here, so that when people come in, they can rent balls and other equipment. We have a large storage space here, and then this is kind of our main mechanical space on the lower right-hand corner. Also, coming into this main circulation space, we have some classroom space, and this can be either one large room, one large classroom, or it can be divided into two different classrooms. Then we have two different activity spaces here, and then this large space is mainly used for the wrestling program. So it's specifically sized to accommodate the mats for wrestling, also with a large storage area. This is our concession space, and it serves there's a large area here for concession queuing, and this is where you would come out and you would have visibility down into the different athletic spaces. So the floor in the white area is shown over here. So this is the lower level here. It's 11 feet lower than this floor. So when you come out into this space, this mezzanine area, into the central area, views and visibility down into the gym and into the field house area to the left and to the right. Also on this space up here is this mezzanine space can really be used for a lot of different purposes. It can be programmed for classes. It can also be used just for tournaments, for team camp out area, just for spectators. And then we also have the bleacher area that would step down from that mezzanine area. Then on the very north end of the building is the cardio space. That's the machines for cardio, treadmills and elliptical machines and that kind of thing. So that's really the upper level. I mentioned before, this is the banquet space. That would be a bid alternate. It has a kitchen area and restrooms. I also didn't mention we have restrooms here, and then we have 3 kind of family changing areas that also have each of them has a shower. On the lower level, as I mentioned, the field house is on the left. That would have a turf area, and I did bring some turf samples if anybody's interested in seeing the turf, but artificial turf, and then the basketball gym space, that would be basketball, volleyball, is on the right. You'll see the track that runs around. This is a really important element, we feel like, for the community. We feel like that's something that's really been needed in the community, to have an indoor walking track, and so that circles the entire field house and gym space. And then on the lower level is the fitness center. So that's the weight area and other weight machines would be located there. And then again, a large storage space that's on the north side of the building. And that really gives flexibility to bring things, deliveries and equipment in from the north area and through those double doors directly into the storage space. Both of the field house and the gym space are really intended to have maximum flexibility with overhead equipment, so that can be rearranged for volleyball and basketball very easily. The field house would have capabilities for batting cages that could drop down, so that can be used for baseball and softball, obviously soccer, just different training, so that would be a very flexible area as well. So that is really the full project plan. Clay did ask us to, after we developed this, to look at some options that would reduce the size of the building. And so we have 2 other options that we've done to look at how that might reduce in size. If I can get it to advance. So this is the first one. You can see what we've done is eliminated one of the large gym spaces. So eliminated the left side, and we really are left with one gym space to the right. Otherwise, everything else remains. So one of the big drawbacks to this is we end up with a very small track area, indoor track. This space that's left would really need to be a multi-purpose space, and we could utilize portable turf in there for when you want to use it in a turf situation, and that portable turf could go over the gym floor. Otherwise, really the biggest drawback to this is the very short track and really limiting your flexibility by only having one gym space. This is about a 30,000 square foot plan. And then the second option was eliminating that whole mezzanine space, as well as the other gym space. So really you have limited a lot of your visibility into the space, and again eliminated the size of the track, and really reduce a lot of the flexibility that you would have. But it does save budget. And this is about a 26,000 square foot building. I wanted just to show some of the images. This is from the street, from the corner, from the parking looking towards the front entry. So you can see kind of an entry element that comes up, and that runs all the way through the building and kind of goes over that mezzanine area. And this is a view from the southeast looking towards the building. And then this is a view looking from more of the backside, from the northwest towards the southeast of the building. And you can kind of see the patio space that would open up from the banquet space and some of the service areas on the back. So that's what I had tonight, and wanted to open it up for any questions or comments or discussion that you might have.
I have a question.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. The area that you have for wrestling, the area that, what's the floor made of? What is that now where you can remove the,
Yeah, it would actually be mat. It would actually be mats.
like a mat? That's what I was wondering.
Right, actual wrestling mats that would be down. Of course, those could be rolled up.
Yeah.
You want to use it for some other purpose,
Okay.
but that would be the wrestling
Great.
mats
Okay, thank you.
in there primarily.
All righty, thank you.
Is there access from the upper level to the lower level? I mean,
Correct.
to get down handicap-wise?
Yes, yes, there is an elevator and stairs that are located in there because there's 11-foot difference. And the main reason that we were, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the main reason we're stepping that down is just to save earthwork and grading because there is so much slope on the site. If we were to try to level that site out, it would be an extensive earthwork project. So we're really trying to work with the current grade and step the building down.
And also on your alternate bid, is that whole section left out, or is that a shell space?
Well, actually, that's a good question. We were looking at it both ways. We were looking at pricing it as a shell space for one price, and then there'd be a second price to, well, the base bid would have nothing there.
Okay.
Then there'd be a price for the shell of that space, and then a second price to totally finish it out. So you have some options once the bids come in on what you want to do.
The $4 million option.
Yes.
Looks like you've eliminated the whole, I guess you could call it mezzanine area.
Correct.
The cardio, the weight room.
Correct.
And the elevator. The elevator doesn't exist on the last option.
We would either have an elevator, and the other option we were looking at was putting a ramp in. It'd be a very long ramp. It'd be almost a 140-foot ramp.
Yeah.
But we were looking at a switchback, so it'd likely be an elevator. We're just not showing the location at this point. But we would need an elevator to have in that space.
Ballard, some of the other space that's in that building could be used for the cardio area and the weight area.
And that's fine, but we don't have handicap access to the lower level, and I assume
we would
that's
have
just
to.
Because this is a sketch that you started
right.
Xing stuff out of.
Exactly. To do that, we, like you said, kind of block some areas out. And but yes, we would. If you want to pursue that option, we would have to go in and have a location for the elevator.
The wrestling area. What is the anticipated usage?
We understand that's a good
That's a big area for.
Yeah, that's more of a multi-purpose activity room. 4 or 5 months out of the year, we'd have mats down. We'd use it for the wrestling program. We could use it gymnastics. We have a gymnastics program. Cheerleading. We could do some of the activities that would require a mat, and then the other 7 or 8 months we could roll up the mats, and you could have all kinds of activities in there. I anticipate possibly a concrete floor or a rubberized floor that you could do something in the off season with. So it would be kind of a multi-purpose activity.
Okay.
And also mechanically, what are you looking at as far as air conditioning, heating, ground source stuff, or conventional?
Right now, what we're looking at for the large open spaces, the gym and the field house, we're looking at using what's called an air rotation unit. And what that does is eliminates all the ductwork on the interior of that space. It's actually located it's a unit that goes on the outside of the building, and it's low volume. We've used that in field houses a lot. It's a very economical solution. And the great thing about eliminating the ductwork is at the roof structure above those, we have so much equipment. We have netting that's coming down. We have basketball goals, volleyball goals, and they're all folding up. And lighting. And so if we can eliminate that ductwork, it really cleans things up and gives you a lot more flexibility. And the rest of the space, we haven't landed on the exact mechanical system yet. There's some different options. We can look at ground source, as you mentioned. It could be more of a traditional ground-mounted unit. we'd like to try to keep away from the rooftop units because that complicates our pre-engineered metal building, and maybe do ground mount. But that's something we'll have to continue to consider some of the options for the other spaces.
Is it just the speed of your sketching on the track, on the $5 million and the $4 million that it looks like a U? It's not really a track.
Yeah, right. It would have to be. It would be
just the speed of your sketching on this.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then I guess I'm disappointed in the scalability of the $4 million option. You've basically eliminated the opportunity to later go on and add the other pieces and parts in the other options.
Let me comment on that a little bit. I think the $4 million is a real basic option. And right. I think if that's the direction the council wanted to go, we would probably change directions with our philosophy. I mean, our goal is to have a true multi-purpose building that you can have multiple activities going on at the same time.
Understand?
And so if we went to that option, we'd probably be looking at a building that's open evenings only or for scheduled activities. We probably wouldn't staff it because it doesn't have the amenities that would bring people in throughout the day. So obviously,
we could design it to be utilized throughout the day.
But you eliminate a walking track. So
well, but it's also, my comment is on the scalability.
Correct.
Yes, if we went with the $4 million option, then we would be scaling down operations of what we've been talking about. If I put the $4 million option beside the $5 million or even the full project, we're not later going to be able to go and add. My comment is we're not going to be able to later go and add what we've got in the other two options because of the way you've built the basketball.
That's without huge expense.
Possible, yes.
You're right.
That's
so
possible.
I guess what I was expecting was the basketball court in a similar layout to the other two options so that we would be able to later go and add.
It could be.
And do more.
Yeah. And
right now it appears that we would not be able to.
Yeah. And I talked to Kerry and his assistant about it a little bit about just being able to take off pieces, add pieces. And he could probably talk a little bit more about this, but I think it changes the exterior architecture of the building and how they design the building. And
understand.
Kerry, you could probably speak more on that. I don't really know exactly what I'm talking about with.
Well, my question was directed more to him.
Mike?
Yeah, if the idea was to go with more of a $4 million budget and allow for future flexibility to add some of those spaces, I think we would be able to do that. It probably adds to the cost a little bit, just to make sure that we have footings in for this mezzanine space. And so it probably starts bumping the cost up a little bit, but I think we could look at that and look at how that would expand in the future. And you're just saying maybe just leave it pretty much in the same configuration, but just eliminate the mezzanine, eliminate one of the gym spaces, so that can be added later.
I'm talking about both sides of it. One side is it'd be nice if we could have a less expensive option that was scalable to the things we've been talking about. But the other side of my comment is if we do go all the way down to the $4 million option, we have really limited any future expansion of this site in terms of what we thought we were going to do.
Right.
So I'm actually mentioning both sides of this that I'm trying to understand.
And the thing is, it really does, you end up, I don't want to say wasting money, but you end up building exterior wall that in the future becomes interior wall. And so you're spending a lot of money on that exterior wall. If you really want to expand it, that's money that you're kind of throwing away. The mechanical system has to be added on too. It just makes it way more expensive to add that additional space in the future. The most economical time would be now to do it.
And that's part of what I was wanting to hear.
So, is that the
as you're building
this statement right here? And why
we're pushing to these two.
The $4 million and the $5 million in the waste.
I don't think at the $4 million layout that's a good value.
Well, it says both 4 million and 5 million.
Yeah, I don't. I think the 4 million doesn't give what the community's looking for, and I think at the 5 million mark, you basically have the same issues that all the other recreational facilities have in this community. Is that you're pretty much one-dimensional. You can have one activity going on.
It's still saying 5 million is a waste. Statement I'm reading.
I guess what I'm trying to say is if you were to start with that $4 million option, and then you at some point you want to add the elements that made it 6 million, it's going to end up costing a lot more than 6 million.
Because of the walls.
Well, walls, mechanical system, just when you come back in to do construction a second time, you have to remobilize. You're paying the contractor to remobilize several times. It just becomes more expensive. Inflation starts to play into account as well over the next couple years. And so it would cost more to eventually get to that $6 million option than it would be today.
And you'd get less. Yeah.
So-
it's like
so
build a
then-
home, put that extra room in as you're building.
Right.
Rather than, I see.
Right.
So then is the full project, what you're talking about, 6 million, that's the only one that doesn't, we have the one with the $4 million price, 5 million, and so the full project would be a 6 billion?
Correct.
Or thereabouts?
Correct.
What's on the project budget sheet, what's the FFE?
That's furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That's tables and chairs and concessions equipment and things like that.
Exercise equipment?
Exercise equipment, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way we like to describe FF&E is if you were to take the building and take the roof off and shake it, everything that falls out is the FF&E.
That means furnished.
Right.
Yeah. So we can walk in and use it.
Right.
Good question.
But the full project budget does not include the banquet finished out?
That's correct.
So we're talking 7.
Correct.
If we
With the
want
banquet.
everything in the first picture you showed, turnkey usability
Correct.
for everything that you showed us, it's actually 7.
That's correct.
And
The other thing I want to mention about the budget is there is a site cost line item on there, and that really needs to be refined further, and we're looking to engineering department to assist with that, to refine that site work cost. Right now we've based the construction cost for the building on a facility that we did in Columbia that's been bid, and so we looked at the cost per square foot of that structure, and then so we're looking for the city to help with that. Right now, that's kind of an allowance, a placeholder. We hope that would come in less than that, but it could be a little bit more as well. So I just want to be cautious about that.
And Kyle and the engineering department, they're working on various aspects of that. So there's a lot of information that we have to provide the architects yet, so we're still in that process. And then one thing I would mention in that is that, in our past projects, the warehouse, police station, we did a lot of the work ourselves as city labor.
Right.
So we haven't even begun to go down that road to see, okay, what kind of things can we do as a city to help reduce some of this cost. So I think those are some discussions that we'll have as we go through the process.
Definitely, we have some awesome employees.
I did some of the math, and I'm coming up with like $166 a square foot.
That's my question.
For the entire budget?
Yeah.
That's probably, I haven't looked at it that way. We're estimating about $120 a square foot for the building construction, which is based on what we've had recently bid. So if you add in the site work and FF&E, I'm sure it is much more than 120. I haven't done that calculation myself.
Clay, underneath the full project in the bullets, you've got maximize recovery. That's the annual cost, correct? To
Yes,
to operate it. It's not even taking into account the construction.
No,
that's
that's
hoping we can break even with operations.
That's operational only, and that's based on what Ballard King, the consultant, came up with in their operational cost analysis. that we'd be able to recover that much of the cost.
Okay.
So it's kind of, we're hoping they're right. We're hoping that it's a break-even option.
Okay.
And then just one thing I want the council to look at, and guys, I don't care. Clay we got about $400,000 a year coming in from this, okay? It is growing some, but just kind of one way to look at it is the $4 million project is possible with a 10-year financing. The $5 million project runs it out to about 15. And the $6 million project runs it out to 20. Any of those are doable as long as those are the timelines you agree to.
I guess, can I make some general observations?
Can I back up a little bit before you make a general observation?
Go ahead.
In just looking at the numbers, at the 5.8 million for the full project, but then down below it says alternate. For the banquet center unfinished, it would be $612,000. Is that plus or minus? Because then the finished banquet center is $252,000. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because if so, we want 52 and the improvements at 100,000. We won't even worry about that 600,000.
Well, I think it's 252 plus the 612.
Plus the 200. So it's 600 for the shell.
Okay.
Additional 200
so this is the
to
shell.
Finish it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the reason we're bidding that as an alternate, we think it'd be a need for the community. I mean, it's something that this community needs. It's a banquet room. It's something we could live without because we could utilize some of the classroom space for those types of things, meetings, banquets, things like that.
So that's a stack on top.
Smaller banquets. So yeah, I mean, I think there's some revenue that can be generated by having that. That would we'd have to look at the cost once it comes in, and the council would have to decide if that's something the community wants.
Could we include a kitchen area in with the basketball courts and have the basketball courts serve as a banquet area?
Possibly, yeah. That's some options too.
Yeah. Good. My turn?
Your turn.
Okay. Okay. Let's start with the $4 million option. That eliminates the cardio, it eliminates the mezzanine, it eliminates the weight room. Essentially all you have here is a basketball court. I don't think anybody's going to show up for an indoor basketball court. That's going to be worth our effort or time. We can afford a $4 million option without a problem, but I don't think it's going to benefit the community at all. The $6 million option has a lot of space in it, and I don't think we're going to be needing a place to hold a banquet and a basketball tournament and a soccer tournament and wrestling at the same time. I think most of the year, a lot of those spaces are going to be empty. Can we double up on the basketball court with a multi-purpose flooring so we don't have a wood floor that we rip up? And that could be a banquet facility. I don't know, that's an option. But I think if we get rid of the cardio and the weight room and such, with the $4 million option, we're going to have a building that nobody wants to go to.
That's true. I think we should put up a pole barn at that point and call that our community center and save lots of money.
And I think if we go with the $6 million option, we're going to have a lot of unused space most of the year. And it pretty much takes all of our tax revenue. There's no contingency for, well, we're not getting as many people to show up as we think, or the operating expense of the building is a little more than we think. The middle one's closer to what I think will work, as long as we look at the ability to multitask, or multi-use the big open spaces?
Well, I would say this, the middle option is what this community has lots of, with the schools, with other rec centers. And the difficulty we have is that you can't get into those places. You can't use those places because they're being used by other activities. You can't get into the high school, the middle school, MSD, the YMCA, because there's activities going on. So that's what we don't want. That we don't want the same problems that are causing other facilities to discuss expanding, to wish they would have built more space. So we want something that we can use. And I disagree with you that there will be a lot of empty space. I think you can program that space and keep it busy year-round with activities. I think when people go to the high school, you can't. I spent years trying to find a place to have our youth wrestling practices, and we ended up in an old leaky building. And we're happy to have that, but that's the only building available in town. So it's a challenge, and I think other people in this community feel that challenge, whether they want to have softball practice or if they want to have a wedding reception or whatever they're wanting to have, they can't find a place. And I think that's a big reason this sales tax passed, because people want more indoor recreation space. So that's the way I feel about that. Could we get by with the $5 million? Yes. What we have with the full project, the $5.8 million project, is something that we think this community would really like. We think it's a quality facility. It has lots of options. It offers some unique features that other recreational facilities don't have. And it gives us the room to do a lot of different things, to change with the times, to change with the trends, and just provide a lot of recreational programming opportunities.
Could we go visit one or visit some that are approximately the price? I mean, I know I was in the one in Excelsior Springs. That's $12 million. That is unbelievable. This is scaled down half.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there some buildings we can go visit that are close to what we're looking at? Or we could go and have a look.
Excelsior, that's one of my projects as well.
So
awesome. But yes, we could come up with a list of other facilities that you could visit. I'm sure Clay's familiar with some other facilities too. The one in Columbia is under construction right now, so wouldn't be a good one to visit. But we could look up at some opportunities to visit.
How old is Excelsior? When did you build that?
The Excelsior Springs, how old is it?
It's been open, I believe, 2 years.
I think the third, yeah. I took it to, it's unbelievable. Yeah, you did an awesome job.
Thank you.
So, for either one of y'all, in the FE, is the equipment, does it come under warranty, and how long, and what is it like? I know it ain't top of the line, but what's the quality of it for that? You go, because you I believe he said you're going to furnish everything for that $100,000. Is that the volleyball nets and all that too?
Well, I mean, like the basketball goals, that's part of the construction. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah. We're talking about desks, tables, couches, probably the fitness equipment. That would probably be the bulk of that money right there. There's some options with the cardio equipment. You may not want to purchase that because you may want to lease that, because trends change. This year it might be exercise bicycles. Next year it might be treadmills. So you don't want a bunch of equipment that's sitting around and you got to replace it every 2 or 3 years to keep up with the trends. So we might look at leasing that, and that may add some more operational expense, but we wouldn't have to purchase all that up front.
Sure.
Okay.
So just for clarification from my mind, and I'm sorry to ask this again, on the full project, the only thing that is not included is the banquet room. Is that correct? Is that shelled in or not, or would that be the additional 600?
That would be the additional 600.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the difference between unfinished and finished on the banquet facility? I mean, is it usable unfinished, or?
Just be shell?
No, it wouldn't be truly usable. It would have to have all the drywall, lighting, ceilings, flooring,
Okay.
It would just be rough, bare, be like a warehouse space almost.
So the $6 million option is with the shell of the banquet facility unfinished?
No.
No shell.
Or,
No shell.
Banquet's not even.
no, oh, the banquet's not even included in the 6
That's the
million.
additional 600,000.
That would be, that's
Okay, so
what
that's
Close to
another $1 million to
That's
have
correct.
it finished.
Yes,
Okay,
you're correct.
This packet is $7 million. total.
gotcha.
Get the whole thing right.
Yeah. No, he said he wouldn't.
That's fine.
You bid that, and that's bid as an alternate. Two different, you're looking at two different options.
But if we did the 5.8 million and then later wanted to add on the banquet center, that would be a fairly simple add-on.
Right. It would be built to allow that to happen. It would work fairly easily, yes.
The only bad thing is you come with me in the banquet center before you meet the other. I think.
So how did you determine the payback when Mr. Stone asked a while ago on this project? What you estimate revenue it would be?
Oh, the cost recovery?
Yeah.
Our operating revenue. Again, that's based on what Ballard King put together. We've done some operational plans too, trying to figure out how we would staff it, what our expenses would be, figuring in all the typical budget items. And we're pretty close. You know, I think they're a little bit better than us, but we don't have a lot of experience running a community center, so we have to trust that they know what they're talking about. I will tell you that the Centralia facility, community center, it makes a profit. The director up there says that they've made a profit in their facility for several years. So I think that is certainly a possibility.
How big is theirs? You know,
It is smaller than ours. It's probably more towards the 5 million scale.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not very big.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And it's a little bit smaller because, but I believe it has just one basketball court,
Okay.
one long one.
And really, Bill, when you were figuring square footage, were you including the 4,600 square feet of mezzanine
No.
space? I think that's the difference. I mean, because I included the mezzanine space.
I did some recalculations.
And 127 is what I come up with, including the mezzanine.
I just went off he said that 30,000 was gonna cost the,
3.9. Yeah.
that's the numbers. I just used some of the ones he threw out. I didn't go off the sheet.
Is there any other questions?
I think we need to raise the bar. I think the bar needs to be raised on what we can work out.
I think I agree with Clay. If you pick and choose and you leave something for later, it never get done.
Or it's gonna cost too much.
Well, just
As it goes, yeah.
just as a minimum, if you design a 30,000 square foot building, you're going to put in HVAC for 30,000 square feet, or you're going to put in HVAC for a lot more money to handle 40,000 square feet, and then you decide, but still you're going to have a lot more expense up front if you ever put in the facilities later. So either you build it or you don't build it. I mean,
I agree.
Build it.
you
They will
either
build
build what you want or you don't worry about the rest of the stuff.
I agree.
We need to build what the people in this town want. You know, they pass a tax. They're paying for this. So we need to make a facility that they'll use. And
If we can afford it.
Of course, of course.
Yeah,
Of course
$7 million is a lot for a community center.
But
That
I'm telling you, people are not seeing it as whether we can afford it or not. They know they're paying the extra tax, and if we can help them by finding ways to cut or find grant money to help with part of this project,
Right.
then that's what I think we should do. Not say, well, and I get the budget aspect,
Ballard, but we just can't always look at just the budget. You have to look at what quality of life for this community is.
That's right.
I think the full project is a great quality of life for this community.
Agree. Okay.
I agree.
Here, here.
I agree. Quality of life is important, but you got to be able to afford it. And if we can't afford it, we can't build it. I'm sorry about...
But we can afford it.
If we can afford it, that's fine. I don't think we can afford a $7 million facility. It would be nice to have, and it would accomplish everybody's wants and goals and wish lists and everything else.
How did we go from 6 to 7?
Because 6 does not include the banquet facility.
No, but the full project as it currently was is 5.8 million.
Without the banquet
That's
facility.
correct. That is correct. But the original full project was 5.8 million, not 7.
Without the banquet facility.
So it comes to 6.5 with the banquet facility.
It's $900,000 to finish out a banquet, to build and finish out a banquet facility.
Okay.
$7 million.
Again, I don't think that the community that passed the tax wants something subpar. And I think some of the other options are subpar for what they're
looking for. The $4 million definitely is, yes.
You know, so what do you, then you cut the track out? Oh, well, now we don't have a walking track.
My
now we don't
personal
have
opinion,
this.
with the track running through the bleachers, you're not going to see many people use it. It's just,
Yes, you will.
Going through the bleachers?
If we build an indoor 1/10 mile track,
I'm a walker.
going around the bleachers.
Going around the bleachers, that's different. But the way the drawings have it, they're going through the bleachers.
No.
Those are roll-up bleachers.
Yeah, I know, but
No, they wouldn't sit there. They'd be there for special events and larger things. So as far as the warning track or the walking track goes, you know, it's high on a lot of recreational surveys.
Right.
It's high on a growing trend. I mean, it's a popular activity, especially with older adults.
Yes, definitely.
I've heard many times from our park board, this is something we really need. I've heard from this council that that's a priority. You know, I think
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that if you get somebody to go out and use the as-designed track, they're going to run into the bleachers and.
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're not. No.
Well, that's the concern I have. And if they aren't, that's fine.
No, those
why we're
bleachers on the
talking.
end those bleachers on the end are tip up, and you can roll them and put them in storage. So they'll be temporary bleachers.
I agree.
I myself like the full project, whether it's plus or minus the banquet room. We could always add, if need be, try to find at that point $1.5 million down the road to do the banquet room, because obviously the cost is going to go up. We're going to remobilize. There is going to be a little bit higher cost, but the original full project, in my opinion, is what the city of Fulton is looking for in the individuals in the city of Fulton.
Is that a motion?
I would make that motion.
We actually have already voted on this twice.
I would agree with that too, Rick.
We've already decided twice that we're going to let the architects complete the project as it was written now and bring it to us next spring when we're going to decide what we're going to do then. So why do we need to keep overhashing this every 2 weeks?
I like the presentation we have tonight. This gives us an idea what we're looking at.
It was nice to see what was happening.
It was to make Mary happy.
And thank you very much for that.
We have a motion on the floor for the vote?
I'm not really sure exactly what the motion was, but I think we've already discussed, we've had multiple motions and votes, so we should probably just move forward.
I think all we were trying to gain tonight was a figure. You go for the $6 million figure, you go.
We've already decided we're going to wait until next spring to make the decision off of what they're going to present us at the full price.
Okay.
We've done that twice already, so I don't see any reason to continue.
Very good.
The full project will go out for bid, and that's what we'll wait on.
When, back in, or out in March or whenever, are we going to be able to have the city look for grants or other revenue or other streams of funding? So we're not trying to fund this just off the sales tax revenue?
I think what you have the full
I'm saying
project,
is,
you can.
We're always looking for alternate sources of funding.
but you'll be able to come back to us when in March or April, or whenever we start seeing the bids.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I would not set your expectations high. This would be a bricks and mortar type of grant, and those are a little more difficult to come by. But we'll get Gail on it and have a look at it.
May I ask a question yet? On the one in Excelsior Springs, did FEMA get involved? Or not? Nothing like Fulton did as far as storm shelters or anything like that? Okay, thank you.
So I assume, like the wrestling area, to make that a quote storm shelter, it would be considerably more, a little more.
It's probably not doable on the second floor.
If you're talking about getting FEMA grants, the construction that's required for that is quite a bit more than what we would typically see. So it has to have a lid, it has to have a different mechanical system, it has to be fortified, reinforced, concrete. So it really does get pricey.
Okay. Thank you.
Based on where we're at today, when will the full project go out for bid, and when could we expect responses to the bid?
A lot of that depends on us as a city, our engineering department. We're working to get them the information they need. So that's kind of on us to get them. Engineering's a little understaffed right now because of some issues, but I think Kyle's going to be able to help get that information for us. But we're moving in that direction. I think we just need to know tonight, do we continue moving in that direction?
I think you've heard that.
So
we want you to continue moving in that direction.
Yeah, so I think we're still on the end of February, March 1 pace. Would you agree, Carrie?
When it would go out for bid?
To go out.
Hopefully.
Yeah, to go out for bid.
And then responses a month?
Well,
Bill, you might answer that
We'd want to have it on the street at least 30 days, maybe even 45, to give the contractors an adequate time to do the evaluation and come up with a number. It's not something we're going to rush once it's in the bidder's hands.
Absolutely. Understand.
Clay?
Yes.
One thing you may consider, come April, you're going to have a different council.
oh, election.
I've considered that. I've considered that.
That's
yes.
something to
I just
consider.
thought I'd ring your bell.
Yeah.
Or if you don't like our answers now.
And I'd also add that, and Carrie, you correct me if I'm wrong, he thinks that once construction begins, we're probably looking at about a 10 to 12 month construction project. So.
I appreciate all the information tonight. Clay, you've done a wonderful job, and I appreciate everybody's been involved and helped. Thank you.
And I would add that Kerry and his team, they've been very good to work with. They've listened to what we wanted. They've told us some things we couldn't have.
Sure.
So they've been good to work with, better than some of our past experiences. So very, very pleased.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks both.
You bet.
Appreciate you being here this evening.
Yes.
Appreciate it. We'll move on to next item on the agenda, which is the recycling program.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Boone, you want to take us on through that?
While he's making his way to the podium, I'd like to introduce you to one of Fulton's newest residents. He's been sleeping in town since Saturday night, standing at the podium.
Welcome.
I don't know. I've seen him all over town. I can't believe he's left town. I've seen him many days.
I know. I was waiting for you to pick up my check, though.
hasn't picked up my bill one time anywhere I've seen him.
He left too quick.
Well, we gotta give him a house raising, so we gotta find out what the address is.
Oh.
I can help you with that.
Not over live stream.
Whose ward are you in? So we can get our signature.
Oh, yeah.
Fourth.
Oh, you got him, okay.
Good evening. I think you have in your packet some information that Wendy and I have pulled together in reference to recycling. You know, we do single stream right now. A lot of the information that we gathered had to do with dual stream. It seems to be the way that things are being pushed right now. Some of the people that I talked to are outlined in here, but I did talk to Leland with Mid-Missouri Solid Waste District, and his biggest push was education for the public if we're going to try to do something that we are currently doing. So if we're going to go dual stream, keep that in mind. Alina did say that they do have some money currently available. I guess that's in their current budget right now. So if we were going to go that way, that money's available right now, the $2,000 to $4,000. As far as how we would do that, I don't know. Whether we put it in as a utility stuffer or something like that to inform the public, but it would be something along that line.
So one time.
Yeah.
Yes.
$2,000 to $4,000 one-time thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would have as far as grants for next year or something like that, but
okay.
Yes. Talk to, as in your packet, talk to City of Columbia as well, and you're aware that they're willing to partner with us, and it's dual stream also. It's also talking about covered roll-off bins in 2 separate locations, and then their price was about $45 per ton, which when I did the math, that's probably the least expensive one. Also talked to Frank Haymart. Frank was very receptive, came in, talked to me. He has some of the same concerns for his business as the city's going through right now. He would, have some of the same requirements as far as covered roll-off bins in 2 separate locations. He suggested police department and Moser's lot, since we already have some stuff there. But his biggest concern, of course, was our volume, and so that's what kind of drove his price. The volume that the city's going to be is about 18 tons per month, and so that would raise his labor cost, and so that's what kind of drove that $5,000 figure. He may be able to squeeze down some, but that would still be almost double what we're paying currently.
Yeah.
So does that replace the curbside residential?
Yes.
So neither of these options
No, it would be.
that?
No, not replace it. It currently would be curbside, keeping curbside.
Keeping curbside.
Yes.
In addition, the 2 community locations.
No,
I don't hear
we wouldn't do curbside and community locations.
Okay,
It's got to either or.
No, but we're talking about using the split hopper truck right for curbside, picking it up, dumping it.
If we do that, we won't have drop-off sites.
Right. Will not.
Yeah. Okay.
No, the bins are just for us to take to either Columbia or to.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm reading your write-up, your proposal.
Right.
Both of them include 2 drop-off locations for the community.
Well, I didn't think those were community drop-offs. I thought those were just where we're going to be dumping. The hopper cars would be dumping in there, filling that up, and then taking a roll-off to either Columbia or to Mr. Haymar's location.
Okay.
That was my
Thank you. No, I was reading it when it says covered roll-off bins. I was assuming that meant community drop-off locations.
No. And then ultimately, if we were going to do the curbside, continue to do the curbside with the split hopper car, picking up, you know, either cardboard and plastics or whatever the other thing. We would still have to determine what we're going to do with yard waste. So whether we would have another truck, add another truck to pick up yard waste, or have a location for yard waste to be dumped.
And just to say out loud, it's because right now the dual hopper, one is yard waste and one is single stream recycling.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's, you know, that's really our options. Our final option is to stay the course. You know, see what our rate does.
Varies.
And Robert and I spent a few hours one day kind of working on this. In addition to this,
other cities.
Recycling is in a transition.
Yes.
Even in the last few months, there are communities in Fulton, in Missouri, that have drastically changed their recycling schedule, policies, procedures.
Some have suspended.
So we don't know that a decision or an action that we take tonight is going to be still be a viable option in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. Recycled materials has a very, very limited market unless it is very clean cardboard.
Yeah, I know that.
Cardboard has a market. Plastics don't. They're recyclable. Yeah. Your steel containers, your soda cans, they have them, but there's really no market. The market's kind of fallen away. You know, we've been very successful in our glass recycling. You know, we have the 2 containers, and we're removing all that tonnage from the waste stream. So that's been success because there is a market.
Yeah, just supply and demand.
So one thing Robert and I talked about after we met and made some of these phone calls and did some of this research, maybe we just need to keep what we're doing what we're doing for 3 or 4 months and do another evaluation. You know, the cost factor of the way we're doing it is higher than it was.
Right.
But the community and the citizens are used to it. They're familiar with our policies. They're familiar with the procedures. There is going to be a little additional expense to the city. Under the current procedures and the way we're doing it, you know, there's no disruption or modification to the curbside yard waste. Everything just goes on the way it is, and just the way as quickly as the recycling industry is changing for many reasons. I guess I'd almost like to recommend we just maybe reevaluate this in 5 or 6 months and see what is out there then.
Oh, and Bill, that was actually going to be my recommendation this evening, because while it does cost us more, it is still only costing us about $2,000 a month.
Correct.
For us to haul off our recycling. We're getting $750 back on that from the residential bins. So true cost is $1,250 a month. That's not very much for a community this size to have a single stream recycling program.
For now.
That's huge.
Yeah.
For right now.
And you were right, Jeff. I was thinking about what Frank was talking about as far as setting some bins out. Yeah, that would be without curbside.
Frank would be without curbside.
Right.
Yeah. and that would be
Ultimately, Jeff, that's not our total cost.
Well, I think
that'd be the increased cost.
That's the increased cost, right? $1,250, because we still have the cost for the truck, the labor in the recycle truck.
And I think our big concern was the rapid rise in the recycling costs that we were seeing. And we didn't know if that was going to be 240 or 480, and we still don't know. Right. But at least it's kind of held constant at 120 for a couple of months. And I think we can afford to hold for a couple of more months and see what happens.
Yeah.
What other options come available?
Yeah.
So was it, I mean, based on what you just, and I hadn't thought about this tonight or before at all, but based on what you just said, so if it gets to $150 a ton, we begin the evaluation period again and just start taking it to the landfill?
I think the concern was not the 120, it wasn't the 75, it wasn't the 150. I think it was the fact we didn't know what it was gonna be. If we had a contract for $120 a month for a year, I think people on the council would be a lot more amiable to do that. It's the unknown. I think we can go several more months with that unknown still there to see what happens with our options, to see what happens with the industry.
I totally agree. Okay. Is that what you want to do?
Well, I'd like to add, while you played for the 4 or 5 months, that we might take Robert's thing about educating our community what we are doing to keep their rates down low, and they can help us by practicing on separation if it comes to that point, just to educate.
But we don't do, I mean, we don't have it set up in such a way now, Steve, I don't believe.
Well, you don't have to command, tell them to do it, but let them be. I think people are always fair to you if you tell them up front what's going on. Because probably recycling is not anything that most people listen to on the news, the stock market and everything else. Not aware of what's going on in that business.
There was a great article on 60 Minutes, if anybody watched 60 Minutes Sunday night.
Yeah, I do.
Nobody's
I think
taking plastic
education is
anymore.
one big opportunity in terms of the cleanliness of our recycling. I mean, I very specifically remember when we started the single stream and we got the blue bins and all of that, it was basically put any plastic, any cardboard, pizza boxes, you know, milk cartons, anything can go in there and it can be recycled. There wasn't you know, now we're saying that a pizza box can't go in there. Well, I didn't know that until we started talking about this a month and a half ago.
Nor did I.
You know, and washing out I rinse out a milk carton just so it doesn't stink too bad, but I don't get it clean. I don't necessarily wash out a green bean can before I throw it in there, other than to make sure it's ready to go in there. But I think we can do a whole lot of education, because some of this cost may start going down if the recipients of our materials see that it's cleaner and they're getting more return.
It was just a thought to educate.
No, and you know, and we were at one time asking people to put all your plastics in one bag and your paper in another, and we can start asking them to do that again, because then our prices may start going down a little bit.
Education's good.
Yep.
Bill, is that something you want us to check into with Leland, maybe? Because the money is going to disappear if we don't.
We will check with Leland. I'm guessing his money is going to be if we decide to go to the dual stream for that education. Maybe let's see if we can get some money to educate for cleanliness and promotional and improving the single stream waste.
And we have a great resource right there to your left. No, I'm talking the newspaper. Well, we got that too, yes.
We sure do, you're right. Right, stream came and it's right, do that.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Let's move on to Tanglewood Clubhouse discussion.
Where's Clay?
I think he's out with the folks. I think we can pretty well sum it up. We did not receive any bids, so I think at this point we'll continue on the way we have. Okay.
We'll continue with the hiring process of a clubhouse manager.
I think that's what we decided in-house. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go to new business. Do we need a break before we go to new business?
If we could, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Let's have a 5-minute break or 10-minute break. 5
Thank you. We now move on to new business, scout cabin discussion. Mr. Johnson, you want to give us this?
Oh, a few months ago, the city council passed a motion that everyone paid for Parks and Rec facilities. And I think at that point in time, no one gave any consideration to that the Boy and Girl Scouts have been using the scout cabin for decades. And it's been requested that we waive the fees for the scouts to utilize the scout cabin.
I move we waive the fees for the scouts to use the scout cabin.
Second, have a motion, second to waive the fees for scout cabin. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
All those opposed, no. Unanimously, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
That's done.
Okay.
Sorry for the oversight.
So we appreciate you coming, Bill.
We are sorry for the oversight.
We'll move on to roll-off truck discussion. Who's doing that one?
Me.
That's you? Okay, go ahead.
5, 6, 7 months ago, we bid a new roll-off truck. A new roll-off truck chassis that was then going to have the off of the existing old roll-off truck placed on it. And I'm gonna be nice and not tell you the vendor that we ordered it from, but we went through the bid process, and we
Okay.
and we issued a purchase order to the truck company to supply us with the chassis. Well, 3 or 4 months later, we called and said, when are we going to get this? And the truck chassis company said, oh, we didn't order it. And because we're late enough in the year now, we're not going to be able to get you one, and we're not going to honor the bid. Well, we're now 7 months later. We need a roll-off truck. So we put together a bid, and a lot of times this wouldn't even come to the city council, but it's just enough different than normal and standard that I want to bring it to your attention what we plan on doing. So we put together a bid spec to buy a complete truck off the lot that's ready to go, ready to roll, done. That bid came in at $151,000. And if we go out and just buy another new truck, we can surplus the truck that we had planned on getting rid of. And the estimate that we have received from 2 different vendors on the value of that truck, and I think it was somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 for the old truck the way it sits. I think that's going to be a little high. We would put it on like Gov Deals or Blue Wave, where we dispose of a lot of our surplus. So based on that, then I should get a motion from the city council because I'm estimating its value of more than $10,000. So I'm looking for permission from the city council to go ahead and buy this $151,000 completed truck and to dispose of the old one.
So we have
What was the original
with our vendor?
No, we're done. Except we're not going to allow them to bid on anything for a year or 2.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I hope we ain't letting them bid on it.
No, we're not going to let them bid for a year or 2.
Bill, are you going to let the bid go with it, or just the truck?
The complete unit.
Complete unit? I'll make that motion.
And none of the other vendors that bid on the original rebuild aren't available to do it either?
It takes so many months to get the chassis.
Understand.
No, so they do not have anything available that this bed could go on now. And we need, actually the roll-off truck that we're getting rid of, we are currently not running. We are not using it.
I think I have a bid on the floor. Mr. Shiloh, would you repeat that? What you actually bid?
My bid is just buy the new truck and sell the old one.
And get rid of the old one?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Do I have a second? Second. Second down here. Okay, very good.
Want to ask a discussion?
I have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to hear the motion again, please.
Councilman Shilen motioned to buy the new complete unit and surplus the original truck.
For how much?
And get rid of it.
For $151,000 about, and then to surplus the old truck on Gov Deals or Blue Wave.
What was the original bid?
110, 108.
Is that what you want to know, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick. They don't listen to me. I'm the new guy.
Raise your hand.
For the chassis.
Take turns. Just take turns talking.
Do we need to hang on to the old truck and put it back out for bid
No.
for new chassis?
No.
So we have no need for another truck a year from now? Or are we going to, if we...
We don't want this chassis.
I understand we don't want the chassis. So what I'm saying is rather than a year from now we need another one. When will we need another one? Let me start with that question.
We will have the unit to trade in when we get the next one.
Okay. We don't need this unit in order to do a rebuild on it a year from now.
Correct.
Okay.
Good.
I didn't want to auction it off for $10,000 if we could get $50,000 worth of use out of the bed when we have to rebuild the chassis.
I understand the question.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
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 All those opposed, no. Very good. Yeah. Yeses have it. Thank you. Now, next item on the agenda is council concerns. This is time to bring up anything that's not on the agenda this evening that you'd like to have answered or bring to our attention, administration's attention. Let me just start. Anybody with a, well, let me just start with Mr. Shiler.
No.
And Mr. Ballard.
No, I have nothing.
Thank you. Mary?
Yeah, I do. Or yes, I do. Excuse me. I would like to ask the council to one more time, when someone's speaking, wait till they're done. We're all talking at the same time. It sounds like my house. Let's, don't interrupt each other till someone's finished. And a little more attention towards the mayor's direction. I would appreciate that, really. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tone.
I'm very much interested in having a sidewalk from Collier to Westminster. If you go from stem to stern in this town, that's the biggest piece, that there is not currently any sidewalking between those two spots. So we have replaced a lot of sidewalks. We've created a lot of access and a lot of approaches to our sidewalks. But that's a piece that has not had a sidewalk and needs one. We have people that are having to use the roadway between Collier and Westminster.
That is the exact project that Kyle has put together a TAP grant on. He was asked, you're welcome to come up and describe this, but he was asked as late as today for additional information on that grant funding project. So I'll come up and...
Yeah, Gail and I put together...
Would you raise that microphone a little? There you go. Speak into it. Thank you.
Get it up to the right elevation here. Gail and I put together a TAP grant, Transportation Alternative Grant, same grant that we are using out here on 4th Street, and submitted it to MoDOT and Mid-Missouri Regional Planning Commission, and did a presentation, whole dog and pony show on it, and they, of course, other towns have their projects, and they graded our project out of the 3 that made the cut to do the presentation. We were rated 2nd out of that group, and I was actually got a call today asking for a little bit more information because all the regional planning commissions get together with MoDOT tomorrow to do the final picks. So providing some information just about an hour ago to them describing the project a little bit further. So we're hoping, the odds are we're probably not going to get it this time because we are ranked second. You know, it'd been better if we were ranked first. It's an 80-20 grant. We tried to get ourselves a better kind of a foot up, a leg up by at least going to 25% funding, but we were asking for the maximum amount.
And that project is more than just sidewalks. Can you tell them what?
Yeah, the project is actually taking the roadway to 3 lanes through there. If you look at accidents, there's a lot of rear-end accidents that happen there, especially at Westminster. So it'll be 3 lanes, sidewalks on both sides, the stormwater elements that would be necessary, curb and gutter, lighting. That pretty well gets it.
That's about it. Yeah. Answer your question?
Very good.
What would be the time frame?
The time frame, if we would get the grant.
If we would get the grant?
If we would get the grant, we would do the design this next year, and then we would build it in 2020.
And if we don't get this grant, is that our only option?
If we don't get the grant, here's how I'm proceeding. We will be designing the project still next year and looking for money.
Okay. And an estimated price tag for that full project?
$525,000.
Any thought on what the price tag would be to simply add sidewalking to what we have now?
It would be scaled down quite a bit. I can look at the
maybe 200, some just
right.
Roundabout figure.
Right.
I want to be able to respond to constituents.
Right. That's a decent number. I could get you closer.
Okay.
Looking at estimating, but regardless, in order to add it and to do it safely, you know, there's some storm water that would obviously, because you see the ditches that are over there. So, and that's what brings the price tag out.
Okay.
So.
Isn't that still controlled by MoDOT though?
Still controlled by MoDOT, so we would have to get clearance through MoDOT to do it. But it would probably be.
So we might not be able to scale back as far as you'd think.
It would have to be to MoDOT standards.
Yeah.
It would have to be to MoDOT standards. They would probably let us do it as long as it's to their standard.
So, since this is the time they redoing 54, do we get that turning lane for the police station when they're done out there?
They've promised it to us.
All right, I was just reminding you.
We've reminded them of that several times. And I'm looking at the gentleman to my far left over there.
All right, he was in that room over there when he said, when we redo the highway, we'll put that in for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyle. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Stone. Mr. Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One issue that I have heard, and I have 2 of them. One issue that I have heard from many, and I can see some of the point, is the pavement, the new blacktop that we have put down on Business 54 from start to finish. Lack of holding together at this point, already starting to break up, and it's not even been down very long. If you drive along it when it's wet, you can certainly see where it's going to bubble. Is that all under the current bid still? Are they going to come back and fix that when next spring it's deteriorated at their cost?
So we're talking about the pavement on the Business 54 project.
Correct.
I actually was meeting with a gentleman today, taking a look at an outside person taking a look at the pavement, and I've been asking MoDOT for the quality control testing that was done on it, and actually finally received that late this afternoon. You know, Bill and I have had numerous conversations about exactly what you're talking about. There are some issues that they've tried to, I'd say, put a Band-Aid on a couple of them. They did some grinding of a couple spots that really didn't help at all, and so they really need to come. We had a meeting with the contractor today, and said they're going to have to come back and at least fix these. We're concerned with everything from the asphalt content that was in there to the gradation. Obviously, the biggest factor, I think the biggest thing everybody can point to is that it was cold. When it's cold, trying to put asphalt down, there's a lot of factors that can go in. From at the asphalt plant, how hot is it coming out of there? Are they
Keeping it warm in the truck?
Are they heating it? Are they superheating it? And because of that, are we losing some asphalt before it gets here? Once it gets here, is it so cold? It's losing temperature so quickly, and they're trying to roll it so quick. Are we getting the compaction that we should be getting? So I actually just looked at the MoDOT testing on it, and they said actually that it passed all their tests. Now we're suspect of it enough that we're looking at hiring our own quality control person to take some core samples and look at it. And like I said, we walked the whole job with them today. Drove it, looked at numerous spots that I didn't even catch. So it is a concern.
Thank you.
I think we have to also remember that the project's not complete. It could be the contractor come back and take care of some of those issues without even being anything said to him. So, I think we have to give him a little credit. We also have to remember that and that we're also, as Kyle continues to say, having to work through MoDOT because they're the primary contractor.
Yeah. To further that,
yes, we are trying to take steps to protect the city.
It's on the radar. That's the important part.
That's correct.
To further what Leroy has said, that the general contractor has been very good to work with up to this point. But we'll see what happens.
Thank you. And then secondly, do we have an update on 6th Street? What are opportunities, challenges?
Yeah, as of today, Bill and myself, we talked to the city attorney, Mr. Riley, and he is in contact with the property owner's attorney. Due to the history with this property owner and the city, we are looking at bringing in an independent third-party inspector to look at the damage, the fire damage, the mechanical damage, and the electrical damage to the property. So that was earlier today. I haven't heard back from Mr. Riley yet.
And we're probably going to go ahead with. We went to court, and it was pretty much stayed, giving him an opportunity to do some repairs. I believe the last thing I remember Riley saying was we're going to go ahead and ask for a court date.
Proceed with the trial.
Repairs to the house would be wonderful, but we still have obstacles in the front yard that are.
Yeah. And that's another issue.
In my opinion, unacceptable.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Anything
Mr.
else?
Houchins, my apologies. While Mr. Houchins is still, have we had any additional properties where you've had property owners take advantage of some of our offers? We'd gotten an update a couple of months ago. I just didn't know if we'd had any more.
And we're going to start contacting a few of them again.
Okay.
We've had some other individuals purchase properties that we've had on our list, but as far as contacting property owners again,
okay, but still positive movement to some of those other properties as well.
There's been a few that have been bought and they're remodeling them.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Vaughn?
While he's there, I had some of the same question John's got, but as far as the house goes, I mean, I understand that there's legal problems and this and that, but the cleanup of the property, I mean, we got ordinances against them vehicles. I don't understand why we just can't get them out of there. If we can't go move them because of our ordinance, then we ought to get rid of the ordinance. Apparently it isn't any good if you can't enforce it.
And we have been working on that.
Well,
But, I mean, it's, like I said.
I know what the ordinance reads, there's not much work on it. You send the tow truck down there and get them out. It's that simple.
We have to go through the courts and get warrants and stuff to remove property. It's not as easy to remove property as it is to mow grass. So.
You're not the only one that finds it frustrating.
Anything else, Richard?
I don't know. I think we need to look at ordinances then. It got to be a different way than that. Also, that's all I have for that part. Also, I have been intimidated by people in the Herring and Parkwood subdivision about speeders. In the last couple of weeks, I've had people come to my house and complain. They want to know if there's anything we can do about changing the speed limit, or, in fact, I talked to Bill today about the speed limit sign,
The
or
one we got up
whatever
on
you
Wood?
want to call that. That's like on Wood Street. I didn't realize it wasn't portable. We could pull it around, but
It's pole mounted.
to do something to slow people down. There are a lot of complainers out there. We have a website, Herring Division website. That's all that's on it anymore. Complaining about
The speed sign on Wood Street's movable.
Yeah,
Yes, it is. It's just on a pole, just bolted to a pole.
That's what they were at. They didn't ask that. That was my own personal thing, because I personally think changing it from 30 mile an hour to 20 mile an hour ain't going to make any difference. They don't care what it is now. So 10 mile an hour is not going to slow them down any.
We could move that up to someplace on Herring, couldn't we?
I could tell you that I do have the license plate number of one of the trucks, Richard.
Oh, I know where the trucks are. They're next door to me.
That's right. They're both going right next door to you.
Very good. Do we have anything else, Richard?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moore?
Well, what I have can wait till next year. I'm just going to tell all the administration, the staff, have a happy holiday season, and we appreciate everything y'all done over the year. Y'all a great set of employees to work with.
Thank you. I think the rest of the council can go along with that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Silverdickle?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, what he said.
What he said.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's move on to resolutions. Resolution number 3323 is a resolution that authorizes us to use some of the Volkswagen Trust Government Truck Program money. Councilman Simmons, would you please present Resolution 3323 for consideration?
Yes, sir. Resolution number 3323, a resolution authorizing the mayor, on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri, to sign all necessary documents in relation to the Volkswagen Trust Government Truck Program and authorizing the city's monetary match. I make a motion that we approve this resolution for any vehicles that are currently or would be in the budget.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have one.
Mr. Moore.
Either one of y'all, is that you believe we might get one, or if we get brought it more than one, we can get 50% to the...
Based on as I understand it, there's like $6 million statewide. Some of it's earmarked for St. Louis, some of it's earmarked for Kansas City, and outstate it's the remainder. Based on the applications that we're submitting, I think we're going to be very fortunate to get one. The question was asked earlier about how we're going to pay for it. If it's the electric hybrid bucket truck, we will take it out of the electric reserves. If it's the street sweeper, it would probably be a combination of the stormwater money and general fund dollars. The dump truck, I think Go for it. Dump truck was, street department asked for a dump truck, and who else? Or some, what's the fourth one? And a trash truck has a dedicated funding stream. And we have $230,000 in next year's budget for a trash truck, so it would be, you know, that money's readily available. Just the general fund dump truck would be, that would be a little bit of a challenge to come up with our 50% on that, but we do have a dump truck in next year's budget as well with snow gear on it. So I guess pretty much all of the trucks have a budgeted or dedicated funding source to pay for them. But if we get one, it's going to be a good day.
One's better than zero.
One is better than zero. I think it's going to be very competitive. The MML's been pushing it, MPOA's been pushing it. Just every citizen organization we belong to has been has had it all over their website for even a couple months before the applications were available. That this money was going to be available. So I think that there's going to be a lot of interest and a lot of applications submitted.
Thank you. Anything else?
Well, I think you heard my extra words in there about the budget. My understanding was 2 essentially were in the budget, and 2 we really didn't have in the budget. Is that accurate?
Correct.
The electric, I don't think the
electric's not in the budget.
The electric wasn't in the budget, and there was one other that wasn't in the budget.
We have money. We have readily available money for any of them except the general fund one.
Okay.
But Kyle's got that in the budget too. So. If we get funding, it will come back to the city council for approval and a very clear explanation of where the funds are coming from.
And I appreciate that. I'm just hesitant to go into reserves unless we really need it. So as long as it's coming back to us, so we can look at it again, no problems.
It'll come back to you. We'll be have our dancing shoes on.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
All those opposed, no. Yeses have it. Thank you. We'll now move on to resolution number 3324, which is a resolution that accepts a settlement agreement with one of our contractors on the wastewater treatment plant. Councilman Stone, would you please present this resolution by title? Go ahead. Excuse me.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 3324, a resolution authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri to sign all necessary documents in relation to the settlement agreement and release between the city of Fulton and Lehman Construction LLC pertaining to improvements made to the city's wastewater treatment plant, in addition to any documents or change orders necessary to bring the project to closure. I move for approval of resolution number 3324 at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 3324. Is there any discussion of this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Yeses have it. Thank you.
I do appreciate the time that Bill Johnson and Daryl Dunlap spent with me explaining this one afternoon.
Thank you. That does it for resolutions. We'll move on to ordinances. Third reading. We have one. Councilman Vaughn, would you please present 1520, which is an ordinance that establishes access from Churchill Road into a private development.
Yes, sir.
Title only. Thank you.
Bill number 1520, an ordinance authorizing the conversion of city properties historically used as means of access from Churchill Road into a right-of-way for a private development and establish a name for said right-of-way and establish an effective date. I make a motion to place Bill 1520 for final passage at this meeting.
Second.
Very good. Thank you. I have a motion and a second to advance 1520 for final consideration. Is there any further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Very good. 1520 is moved for final consideration. You've heard bill number 1520 presented 3 times. It's now time for your final vote. Please answer roll call yes or no.
Mr. Shiland?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Reclue?
Yes?
Mr. Shiverdecker?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
And Mr. Braun?
Yes.
8 council members affirmative.
Very good. Thank you. 1520 is approved. Under announcements, pretty much self-explanatory. I don't see anything that's left out. Is there anything that needs to be added, Madam Clerk?
I don't believe so.
Okay, any questions on the announcement? Very good, thank you. I do not have a need for executive session, and so therefore I would entertain
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, third.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Ramadan.